business partners of FBC, FBC staff, and to all the loyal FBC fans listening live from all corners of our beloved country and beyond. I'm extremely happy and feel very privileged to be here today as a member of this iconic organization that is part of Fiji's amazing history. It's not every day that an organization, let alone a media organization, can proudly proclaim to be 60 years old. A remarkable journey that started on the 1st of July 1954 as the only means of nationwide information, education and entertainment for ordinary Fijians has had numerous highs and lows. We have had many successes and many disappointments. From our beginnings as a state-owned broadcaster in this very building, to our transition into a government-owned commercial company with a strong public service base, what has remained constant for us has been the support that we have received from ordinary Fijians for the last 6 decades. It was this support from the public that gave FBC the strength and resolve to soldier on despite periods of neglect and inefficiency. Although this is all part of growing up, it is all in the past. For the last 6 years, with the unwavering support of the Prime Minister and our owners, the Government of Fiji, FBC has been able to trailblaze its way into the homes of Fijians and the history books once again by creating and presenting groundbreaking media to overwhelm not only our competitors but also the public here and abroad. The skeptics who did not give us a chance, who did not give us and the Bainimarama government support of FBC any chance, have slid into the shadows as stories of our innovation, commercial success and groundbreaking ideas which actively and deliberately promote and foster a strong sense of national identity and nation building through education, entertainment and information becomes overwhelmingly apparent in our fast changing nation. The Prime Minister's faith in us and his support for the FBC to secure a sizable loan so that we could finally become a complete national broadcaster, reaching out to more Fijians than any other media, has been the origin of our successful rebirth. The ratings of our 6 radio stations have improved incredibly. In a recent independent survey, all our radio stations were placed in the top 10 stations in the country. Our free-to-air TV station is in record-breaking time the most widely covered and popular TV station, despite our continuing strong public service component. Through a fine balance of information and entertainment that educates Fijians in subtle and obvious ways, we have raised the bar to such heights that we are now considered the leaders and innovators in the media industry. However, our legacy and recent rapid success couldn't have been achieved without support from those who have always wished us well: the government, you, our clients and business partners, the Fijian public, and most of all, the hard-working, dedicated, talented and creative staff of FBC. We are only as good as the people who make up the FBC family. I would like to thank each and every staff member who has taken up the challenge to contribute and strive towards the duty of making FBC the biggest and best media organization in Fiji. You believed that we could be number one. You believed and supported our hope in doing things that we could never have imagined possible for FBC. You believed when there were many around you telling you not to have faith in what we wanted to achieve. It is only through the hard work of each one of you coming together as a united and positive group that we are what we are today. I believe tonight you should celebrate the hardest, not just because we have been able to achieve so much together, but also because fate has ensured that we are all part of FBC at a time when we celebrate the rare milestone of a diamond anniversary. I'm sure you will reminisce about this day for many years to come as contributors to a team that accomplished so much to revitalize the iconic status of FBC. I also take this opportunity to welcome our new Director of Sales and Marketing, Jack Tedrick. Jack is around here, and Jack really wants to know how quickly our clients will utilize all the free spots we gave you as part of our birthday celebrations so that he can start charging you the normal rates. And lastly, I'm truly delighted to be able to introduce to all of you Keith Broadbridge. Many of you may not know this, but Keith started work here in this very building the day it all first started on July 1st, 1954. And he's still contributing to the FBC legacy. Most of us may not be able to achieve this sort of record service, but I really hope that the present FBC team can all at least try to emulate Keith's excellent work ethic, dedication and loyalty, because there is so much more to do for our Fiji. Thank you and good evening.
Well, I am indeed honoured at being invited to speak briefly at this important milestone in the history of the Fiji Broadcasting Commission. That word briefly does, however, present a problem. How does one squeeze 60 years of involvement into a few minutes? But fear not, I shall do my best. My involvement with broadcasting in Fiji spreads over more than these 60 years. In 1952, my Australian employers, Amalgamated Wireless Australasia Limited, posted me to Suva as an announcer technician for a term of 3 to 4 years. AWA, as it was known, had been providing a very basic radio service to the Suva area since 1935. We were based in a street-level room in what is now the Fintel building. The station was registered as ZJV, and the manager, Mr. Frank Exon, had a staff of 5, an announcer technician, a couple of announcers, an office lady, and an office boy. We were on the air from Monday to Saturday from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., 12 noon to 2 p.m., and 5:30 to 10 p.m. And Sundays, silence all day. We started at 5:30 in the afternoon to 10 p.m. The transmitter was behind the building. Now, Broadcasting House, planned since 1948, was almost complete. It was designed by Mr. Fred Beckett of the PWD and built by Bedesi and Sons Limited. I was involved in installing the equipment, connecting and testing both studio and transmitter, the latter located at Princes Road, Tamavua, roughly where the American Embassy is today. Now, in the last days of ZJV, we operated, for the sake of convenience, from this new broadcasting house. We were to cease transmission on June the 30th, 1954, and it so happened I was the last person on the air. I said my goodnight, closed the station, and handed the keys of the building to Mr. Ken Collins, who was the manager and leader of a team of 4 expatriates from Radio New Zealand. On July 1st, the station came on the air at 7 p.m. when the Fiji Broadcasting Commission began its service with the call sign VRH. The service was opened by Sir Ronald Garvey, Governor of the Colony of Fiji. There were many other speakers, but the most memorable part was the contribution of the ACS Choir and its haunting Ootha Na Ootha. The closing of ZJV should have meant the closing of my career in Fiji broadcasting. I returned to Australia, but within a few months I was back, having been offered a position of senior technician with the FBC. I stayed for nearly 20 years when I resigned to form my own business. But I was never far away, some part-time announcing and news reading. These first years were times of constant development. Coverage needed to be improved, and a relay station was opened in Vormal Street, Lautoka. A VHF program link from the Suva studios to Lautoka went by way of Volui Suva to Nandarivatu to the Lautoka studio. Now, there are so many memories of my involvement in those early years, and despite the passage of time, they seem like only yesterday. There were royal visits, colourful military parades, the first South Pacific Games, the return of the Fiji Battalion from Malaya, the funeral of Rata Salala Sakuna. And then there were the colourful and exciting days of Fiji's independence. We received and recorded the first satellite signal from space, Russia's Sputnik. Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, while I recall visits to the leprosy hospital on Makungai, not with leprosy, but for broadcasting. There were unforgettable names to bring to light. Robert Munro, later Sir Robert Munro, he was the first chairman. Ravawama Vunivalu, Lloyd Lytton, Israeli Radule, Uriah Karoi, Bhaskaranan Mishra, Gordon King, Chandrika Prasad, and Lasarusa Vosiniwalala. Included would be Paul Sloan, Robert Phillips, Emma Lestro, and Sokoweti Rayawa. There are so many. And as I said, the list goes on, and so do my memories. My apologies for what was supposed to be a brief contribution. The beautiful building you see over there before you today is the result of various extensions over the years, coupled with a major renovation some 2.5 years ago to incorporate TV with the radio networks and a complete re-equipping with state-of-the-art technology. Well, my sincere good wishes for the next 60 years. Long may you reign.
Mr. Riaz Said Qayyum, the CEO of FBC, Mr. Keith Broadbridge, honorable dignitaries, the staff of FBC, ladies and gentlemen, Bulawinak, and a very good evening to you all. I'm delighted to be here this evening to celebrate FBC's Diamond Jubilee. 60 years ago, listeners from across the country tuned in at 6 a.m. to hear the beating of the lali, followed by Fiji's first ever local radio broadcast. Before that moment, people had to use shortwave radios to listen to foreign broadcasts on BBC, Radio Australia and Radio New Zealand. Imagine the pride and joy that Fijians must have experienced knowing that the broadcast was coming from the capital city, Suva, not some far-off place like Sydney or London. The radio station that signed on that day with the call letters ZJV soon changed its name to the FBC and quickly became one of the most important sources of news, education and entertainment in the decades that followed. Every morning at 6 a.m., listeners would be greeted with the beating lali, and every evening sent to bed with the Islay and God Save the Queen. For years, FBC ruled the airwaves as Fiji's public service broadcaster. But continued success for a broadcaster requires the ability to adapt and evolve as times change, as technology changes. And unfortunately, FBC was unable to keep pace with the developments that were happening in the country as commercial radio stations started to enter the market and compete for listeners' attention. Fast forward to 2008, one of the first things my government did after assuming office was conduct a survey of the telecommunications landscape in Fiji. And as you can imagine, the results were not promising. In radio, FBC was struggling. The company had not turned a profit in 10 years. The building and infrastructure were falling apart, and the staff were demoralized. In TV, consumers had little choice, with a single free-to-air station dominating the market. In mobile, there was only one service provider, making prices for calls and texts sky high. And internet penetration at the time was almost non-existent. We knew that a radical intervention was needed, and so we set about creating a holistic approach to reform. Now, in 2014, look how far we have come. Fiji has 2 mobile service providers competing in a deregulated market, which has increased coverage, driven down prices, and improved services. Fiji now has the region's first national broadband policy, and more Fijians than ever before are connected to the internet. But without doubt, one of the biggest challenges that lay before us in 2008 was the reform of FBC. I was insistent that the organization needed to develop a TV arm because a true national broadcaster needs TV as well as radio. I took it as a national embarrassment that Fiji was one of the last countries in the region without it. If Tonga and Samoa could do it, why couldn't we? It was a tall order for the new CEO and his young team, set up a brand new nationwide television outfit with a mandate to educate, inform, and entertain the Fijian people. Looking back at the huge amount of work involved, I'm surprised they didn't run for the hills. Or maybe at that point they just didn't know better. Well, thanks to their hard work, long hours, and complete dedication to the project, they pulled it off in a big way. When FBC TV went live in November 2011, it had 90% coverage across Fiji right off the bat. But for me, the most remarkable achievement has been how the CEO and his team have been able to translate the broad lineup of programming. Translate the broad scope of the mandate into a vibrant and modern lineup of programming. I think when most people think about public service broadcasters, they think about formal programs that have high international, informational and educational value, but little or no entertainment value. With government support, FBC has found a way to operate as a public broadcaster in a commercial world. They have managed to strike a balance between information, education, and entertainment that is commendable and unique. And the Fijian people certainly seem to agree. FBC is now the most watched network in the country, and the appreciation for the content they are providing is widespread. I think perhaps the thing that people are responding to most is the effort FBC has put into making its programs accessible to all, through subtitles, as well as focus on developing local programming. Whether it's joining in the last with the cast of the widely popular Mbatini Tanoa, learning Itauke and Hindi from Wasea Basha, or following the debate on For the Record, these programs are resonating with ordinary people. As Prime Minister, I've also been impressed with the short segments FBC has created to promote national pride, unity, and love for our country. I found that these little things like the I Love Fiji ads can have a big impact. And I know I'm not alone in feeling a huge sense of pride every time I see a young person look into the camera and say, I'm proud to be a Fijian. In fact, I've been told that one of the first times the crew went out filming these segments, they went in a community that had never considered themselves Fijian before. A little boy was speaking into the camera, clearly quite shy, when his father interrupted and said, "Speak up, son. How else are you going to say that you are proud to be a Fijian?" FBC's continued success is also down to its prudent financial management. They have never defaulted on a loan repayment, and I hope they never do, and have made shareholder returns a priority. And I understand that their audit accounts will be ready by September. And of course, the development hasn't stopped. FBC is currently working with the Japanese government to enhance its AM service, which will be able to cover all of Fiji from one site. AM frequencies can reach outer islands that FM can't, and will be indispensable during times of natural disaster for communicating essential service information if FM frequencies go down. Ladies and gentlemen, I also would like to take this opportunity to briefly reflect on the world of television in Fiji. 2014 has been a busy year. The new TV decree was introduced in May, which has put an end to the old system that allowed a single broadcaster to purchase exclusive rights for coverage of important designated events. The problem is that not many Fijians have access to all three free-to-air television stations, and even fewer have access to satellite. That meant if an important event was showing on a station you didn't have, you'd miss out. This is no longer the case, and I'm pleased to say that the feedback so far has been outstanding. Thousands of Fijians were able to watch the recent World Cup in Brazil who wouldn't have been able to otherwise. And I know that many are now eagerly awaiting the beginning of the 7th series, knowing that the matches will air on all stations. But it's important to remember that this decree does not just cover sporting events. It also covers the budget address, parliamentary proceedings, and state funerals. And perhaps most important, it covers election results too. That means people will be able to tune into any free-to-air station and see the result come out on the night of elections. You will quite literally be able to see democracy in action. But there's more still to come. We are also planning the migration from analog to digital television. Plans have been finalized for the creation of a national digital television platform that will greatly improve the picture and sound quality of television programs and expand the coverage of all broadcast television channels. The digital platform will offer consumers better reception, more channels, and access to high definition and pay-per-view programming. The new platform will initially extend the coverage of all broadcast channels to 94% of the population, marking a drastic improvement of the current levels of coverage. Also, digital television will work on current television sets and no satellite dish is required. All that is needed is a low-cost set-top box which will give you greater control over programming, including the ability to choose what channels are available in your households if you have children. The Department of Communications will oversee the creation of this government-owned national platform. Once complete, the platform will be handed over to FBC to manage, and FBC will form a new transmission company for this purpose. Broadcasters will then lease one or multiple digital channels for fixed annual fees. The system will be completely transparent, and the cost to lease channels will be the same for all broadcasters, including FBC. The fixed fees will replace the need for ongoing investments in new equipment and infrastructure, as well as costs for repair and maintenance. This means that broadcasters will be free to focus on providing content and leave all the work related to transmission to the platform manager. This is good news for Fijians, and we expect to have an update on progress soon. With those words, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to extend a special thanks to the CEO and his management team for their strong leadership and vision over the past 6 years. I would also like to acknowledge all the staff who make FBC the successful, exciting, and vibrant place it is. It is now my pleasure to wish FBC a happy 60th birthday and here's to the next 60 years. Thank you.